Hey guys, welcome back to more AFK Arena. In today's video, we have Atheus, however we want to say it, the new Wilder, and he's actually an intelligence-based tank, and I think he could actually have the viability of being a decent tank at actually tanking damage. Now, we'll have to see at high deficits how his systems function and how it works, but at this stage, I feel like he could be pretty decent. I still wouldn't rush into investing him. I will definitely test him in the guild trials at higher deficits to see the way his absorption works. But in general, I'm quite impressed. I think he looks absolutely sick. His in-game sprite looks wicked. I'm like really happy with this character. I think he's just a really cool character in general. And when I saw tank, I was like, damn, he's just going to be a throwaway unit. But he actually seems pretty decent. So let's get into it. All right, once again, big skill descriptions. So his ultimate, he waves his staff, unleashing a torrential siege with the area most I think it's to the area most concentrated with enemies as the target area. The torrential siege, dude, I can't even read today. The torrential siege deals AoE damage to enemies in its path for 300% of his attack rating and stops upon reaching the target area. After stopping, the torrential siege knocks the enemies in the target area back slightly towards the center of the area and stuns them briefly. This will make more sense when we see it. I feel like the wording on it is pretty poor. Then Atheus generates a beast cage lasting 12 seconds at the target location. Any enemy that tries to leave the beast cage will take additional damage equal to 170% of his attack rating and is knocked back slightly and stunned briefly. This effect can be triggered against each enemy up to 1 time every second. When an enemy leaves the cage, their tenacity is reduced by 30 points. For 5 seconds, only one beast cage may exist at a time during a battle. That was a very long description, but basically he puts a wave towards an enemy. Any enemy in the way gets hit, and then it basically knocks them towards the center of it and puts a cage up around them. That's the basic gist of the way it works. The upgrade goes to more damage, and then the level 3 upgrade. If the tenacity of the enemy in the beast cage is lower than his insight, every 1 point of difference increases the damage suffered by the enemy by 1% up to a maximum of 80. Really, the damage isn't what we're looking at. It's more like the control factor and stuff like that. And there is more stuff related to his cage when we look at the rest of his kit, so we'll talk about that in a sec. So now we have his next ability. When using some of his skills, he earns wood protection, which can be stacked up to 3 times. When receiving damage from a single attack that exceeds 10% of his max health, Atheus can spend 1 stack of wood protection to resist this damage. Once he's acquired the maximum stacks of wood protection, any more wood protections received will be converted into 5% of his max health. He uses his staff and oaken shield arm alternatively. So he's another one of those units that has alternating basic attacks. So one of them, when he uses his shield arm, he gains 1 stack of wood protection, and when he uses his staff, he stuns the enemy for 1.5 seconds. So he should stack this protection pretty quickly, pretty decently, we'll see. And then for the upgrades are actually decent on this one. Once he has acquired the maximum stacks of wood protection, he starts getting healed for 10% with every new stack. His wood protection can then be stacked up to 6 times. Now, I believe this means when it can be stacked up to 6 times, he does have to reach the 6 stacks before he can start getting healed. I'm not too sure, haven't tested it thoroughly yet, which is kind of a downside if you're trying to get that healing. But let's face it, the game's more about avoiding damage than getting healed, so having more stacks of that to avoid damage is going to be more important. When he possesses wood protection, damage he receives will not be immediately calculated and will instead be calculated once after it accumulatively reaches 25% of his max health. After a one-time calculation is triggered for 2 seconds, damage will be accumulated again. So I think it means what happens is he takes no damage. Then it waits till he's had accumulated damage for 25% of his max health. Then that damage will be hit in 1 hit, but then he'll avoid it with one of his wood stacks. And then if he survives for another 2 seconds, he gets to stack that back up again to the 25%. That's the way I understand it, and this is where I think he may have some decent survivability, especially if he starts getting the extra stacks. So let's go into the next one. He taps the ground with his staff, unleashing a cleansing deluge that deals damage to nearby enemies for 330% of his attack rating and inflicts spiritual stagnation on them for 5 seconds. When under spiritual stagnation, say that 10 times quickly, damage dealt by an enemy is reduced by 25%. Each time he inflicts spiritual stagnation on one enemy, he receives 1 stack of wood protection. Then while under, the damage is reduced by 40%, and then it lasts for 8 seconds. And then for 30 engraving, any beast cage on the battlefield deals the effects of cleansing deluge within range. So this is pretty cool because this is really going to like stack him up really quickly on those on those wood stacks, because it's just going to do this when he puts the cage up. So I think it's a decent 30 engraving. Next one, he leans over, strikes the ground with his oaken shield arm, and induces the enchanted wood to break out of the ground, dealing damage to nearby enemies for 260% of its attack rating and stunning them for 4 seconds. Always nice when we have a bit of control on a tank. At the end of his skill, he will receive 1 stack of wood protection. At the end of his skill, he will receive 3 stacks of wood protection. So this is a really good one. This is a free upgrade. And then his 60 engraving. Any beast cage on the battlefield deals the effects of nature's breakthrough within. So basically, when you use his ult, he's going to get this extra 3 stacks as well. So, and get the stun. So it's one of those things where I'm curious whether we need like. It's going to see how he plays out, whether he needs the engravings to be self-sustainable in that he gets those extra stats of wood protection from the E30 and the E60, or whether he can be self-sustainable without them. But we'll have to wait and see, because I like lower investment on these type of units, but we'll have to see. All right, the signature item. When a beast cage exists, normal attack damage dealt by him and his allied heroes is increased by 45%. That's quite nice because it's just a team-wide buff of 45% on basic attack damage. Not too bad. Enemies within range of a beast cage have their dodge and magic suppression reduced by 60 and 20 points respectively. Enemies within that just goes up to 120 and 40. And then at 30, enemies within range of a beast cage are unable to use their ultimate skill when under spiritual stagnation. So we get that additional effect of cancelling ultimates. I don't think it's the most important thing, but I think it could be nice. Once again, looking towards lower investment. And then I think his furniture, you don't really need to worry about 9 furniture. 3's okay. Each time he acquires a stack of wood protection, his buffer is increased by 10 points. And then we got each time he acquires a stack of wood protection, his insight is increased by 10 points. Now, I don't know if this is going to be making me actually deal significant damage. At this stage, I'm going to think it doesn't matter too much because I still don't think his damage is going to be that high, but we'll have to wait and see. But it's always good to have something you don't have to invest into. So let's go and take a look at this guy in action. We'll jump over here and just have a look at him against the dummies, and then we'll go into the actual battle. So you can see, I love it when you get a good animation. So you've got like the stacks on top of him. It looks like he's pretty much starting at 6 because you can see them glowing and they're not changing, but we won't see them go away because he doesn't have anything else. And there's that cage that comes up, and you can see all the immune damage that he's taking. So he's just straight immune to all the damage, which is quite nice. So now let's go back out and let's go over to this one. Like I said, I think he definitely has a chance to do something. So we're just going to jump in here with just him and just have a look at him avoiding some damage. So he comes in. It looks like there's nothing in his kit that said he instantly gets the stacks, but it looks like he starts the battle with the 6 stacks, which is honestly quite nice. So there's his little his ult. It groups them in, it stuns them, it gets everything happening. He's sitting there with his stacks. I'm waiting to see these stacks go down, which they should yeah. So now he's down 1 because he's down to 5 stacks. You can see that now he's going to be taking some big damage from all these ults. And we're probably not even going to see what happens next because he's just going to take... Yeah, so he just died. So he took too many damage. But, like, I'm not sure if that was, like, he got the 25%, then procced it, then they punched through him in the time that he was out of stacks. So I want to test that a bit more. But in general, like, very, very tanky at this stage from what we can see. So let's just go ahead and do this. I mean, I feel like that grouping effect with his stun as well. The floppy is going to be a good combo with him. Let's just run with this and see what happens. Okay, so obviously he's going to have no trouble surviving. But the problem is against these enemies, we all know they just they just die and they don't do damage. So this is where I said I don't know how viable he's going to be, how long he's normally going to survive against enemies, if that makes sense. Once we start looking at deficits, it just all depends on how this functions and how well he can avoid damage with this thing. But if it's like, if worst case scenario, he becomes absolutely trash. Best case scenario, he can survive for a fair while. Because I'm just reading this, I'm thinking it might be not the greatest in that unless he can continually not get CC'd and continually generate those stacks so that he can continually avoid like every piece of damage. But the problem is at high deficits, even a basic attack is going to be dealing like 25% of your health damage. So, well, not always, but you guys get the gist. The damage just comes in so hard and hot that I don't know if it's going to work, but it's definitely one I'm keen to test. Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.